Good morning and welcome to Lovin Daily. I'm Tim Diacono, joined today by Gianpaolo Azzopardi. How are you, Jay?
I'm good, Tim. How are you?
Not bad. On a Monday morning, and we have quite a lot to discuss today, so let's get into it. Malta confirms 14 new cases of COVID-19, the highest rise in single-day figures since the end of May. A Gozo Channel worker warns of frequent threats to staff for telling passengers to wear masks on board. The victim of a Bormla construction site accident has been identified as Sario Conte. Health NGOs want Malta to reintroduce its ban on smoking at restaurants. And 2 runners have completed an epic 35-hour run across Malta and Gozo. So, Jay, 40 new COVID cases, right?
Exactly.
The story of yesterday.
The biggest story of the week for sure, 14 new COVID-19 cases, which marks the highest single-day rise in cases since the end of May, as you had mentioned before. Thankfully, to start off, none of these cases are in hospital. 9 of the cases have been linked to the hotel takeover party, which happened 2 weekends ago now.
It happened around
2 weekends ago now in St. Julian's at the Radisson Blu Hotel. So that makes it a total of 15, a cluster of 15 cases from that one hotel party. The rest, we don't know exactly where they came from, but you know, it is a bit of alarming news. 14 new cases, it's the highest we've had in quite a while, quite shocking to a lot of people who have now, you know, kind of questioned whether mass events should happen. So there's a petition going around, health authorities, medical authorities, I believe the Maltese Medical Association as well as the College of Pathology are calling for, you know, the cancellation or stoppage of mass events in light of the new spike of cases. I don't know exactly what to think. Tim, the Prime Minister spoke about it yesterday.
Yes, I didn't refer to the cases per se, but he referred to the situation moments before these 14 cases were officially announced. And basically, he played down the seriousness of these cases, of the pandemic in Malta. He said Malta, you know, has handled the situation extremely well, and that he's not going to succumb to fear and panic and calls to start, you know, imposing restrictions and shutting down the economy as we did last March and April. Now, sorry about that. Now, obviously, there was quite a discussion about that. The Prime Minister actually went a step further and adopted quite a cavalier attitude and said that the people who are calling for, you know, more restrictions kind of almost have an agenda against the government, something which I think was just a little bit not on. But, you know, at the end of the day, I think he did make a point. I think he made a point that, you know, while yes, you know, safety is paramount and protecting safety is paramount, the authorities shouldn't rush. They shouldn't just give in. They shouldn't just give in to, you know, snap decisions, because a lot of people are talking about something at any given moment, and they shouldn't just, you know, harm people's livelihoods on a whim. You know, let's not forget that there are also jobs on the line over here, so you can't just say let's close this and let's close that without taking this into account. What do you make of it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we have to take into consideration the fact that obviously there's economic repercussions of closing down our economy, shutting down our airport again. What does that mean in the long term for people's livelihoods? Is it worse in a sense than the COVID-19 pandemic? Who knows? Some people might agree, some people might disagree. Talking, you know, hasty decisions, several mass events have already cancelled over the summer days this morning or last night actually announced that they had cancelled their event. So, you know, I think we have to proceed cautiously, be sensible about what we decide to do or what we, you know, what our impulses might say is best to do. Like you said, we dealt with the pandemic really well the first time it came around, and we opened our airports, we repealed the public health emergency, and in light of those, our cases went down. We gradually saw less cases even with the opening of of the airport and to more countries, and the opening of restaurants and bars and whatnot. So let's be cautious. Let's proceed with caution and take in consideration, obviously, that there are many other repercussions to the pandemic than just the number of cases and whatnot.
Yeah, obviously the past doesn't necessarily have to be, the future. So just because we did well in the past doesn't necessarily mean we're going to do well in the future. But it is worth remembering that, we did come through the reopening of the economy, even though a lot of people had warned that it was going to lead to a huge spike in cases. And I think the health authorities have done a fantastic job so far, and we shouldn't just dismiss them so quickly.
Absolutely.
Moving on. So this was quite an interesting story. There was a fight on board the Gozo Channel recently when an official of the ferry told a passenger that he needs to wear a mask on board, and it ended up in a physical fight. And I think even the police had to intervene at one point. Now, a worker of the Gozo Channel has spoken to Lovin Malta and said that threats by passengers to staff with regards mask use it's quite common on board. So basically, there's a bit of a ridiculous state of play where the ferry demands that you wear a mask before boarding the ferry, but then people just take off the mask while on the boat, and it's just very difficult, if not impossible, to enforce it given the number of staff on the Gozo Channel, and it's a bit of a ridiculous situation, right?
Absolutely. I mean, this is something you heard in the US a couple months ago, with the stay-home order and stuff, people refusing to wear face masks, and now we're hearing it on the Gozo Channel, it happening on the Gozo Channel ferry. It doesn't seem to be a uniform kind of idea on when you should wear masks, whether it's a guideline or it's by law that you should wear masks. Now, obviously, the Gozo Channel ferry came out saying it is part of their kind of protocol, part of their measures, that you have to wear a mask on board, which I totally agree with. But people seem to be a bit confused on whether they have to or whether they don't. Personally, I've also kind of been unsure walking into some shops whether I'm obliged to wear a mask or not. There've been cases where I've had to wear a mask, and there've been cases where I haven't. So again, it kind of brings up this whole confusion people have been having with the whether it's a by law that you have to wear face mask. Health authorities haven't been 100% transparent on it, and it's been like this for a few months now. Yeah,
but then you also look at the Labour Party's general conference on Sunday, and no one was wearing a mask.
Exactly.
So there is a lot of these mixed messages going around, and I don't think it helps at all, because in a situation as like a pandemic, you need a consistent message. People need to know what to do, how to behave, and hearing different things from different authorities just leads to an entire sense of confusion, and this, I suspect, is what has led to the situation that we're currently in. Moving on.
At the end of the day, I'd like to mention this, if authorities tell you to wear a face mask, then just please wear the face mask, or, we can avoid these physical confrontations, and it's for the best of everyone. So just please listen to what authorities have to say, especially on the Gozo Channel ferry. Now, moving on to what I think is perhaps the most tragic story of the past week, and which has been overlooked. A Bormla construction worker a Bormla construction worker has been identified as a former Gambian soldier, Sario Conte. Now, Sario Conte passed away last week tragically during a Bormla wall collapse at a construction site. He was 32 years old. His friends reached out to us. They described him as a good boy. He's a former soldier in Gambia who came from a very poor family, and obviously his family are absolutely devastated that their only child has passed away. They don't know the details of exactly what happened, unfortunately. But it's an absolutely tragic situation that I feel has been brushed over because of the fear of surrounding the COVID-19 pandemic. Very similar actually to the case of Miriam Patch, who also was a victim of a construction site collapse, who, a few weeks later, the COVID-19 pandemic came around and people also seem to brush that aside. I think it's an absolute tragedy. I think because Sayo Conte was a black man from Gambia, his case has been made out to seem less important than if it was a Maltese construction worker. I think more attention needs to be diverted to this topic. Obviously, the construction industry is dealing with its own pandemic in terms of health and safety, which has claimed numerous lives this year. Tim, what do you make of the whole situation?
Obviously, we don't even know yet whether any action has been taken, right? So it's been a few days now. As far as we know, no one has been arrested in connection with this incident. Meanwhile, Sarah Conte has died. That's an absolute tragedy. And meanwhile, a colleague of his, Johanna Lul, is still in hospital recovering from his injuries. We don't even know what caused this accident, but let's hope that people are indeed held responsible for it, because it cannot be that you can just have there can just be an accident like this and that leads to death and no one is held accountable for it. I think it's just not on. Moving on, an alliance of health, it's a bit of a controversial one, an alliance of health NGOs have called on Malta to bring back its smoking ban at restaurants. So basically, during the COVID-19 pandemic, restaurants were told, when restaurants reopened, they were told to disallow ashtrays. So people were no longer allowed to smoke outdoors at restaurants. Now, as you can expect, this led to differing reactions. Smokers were saying this is completely unfair, that we're not allowed to smoke indoors, we're not allowed to smoke outdoors, like where on earth can we smoke? You have to move 10 meters away from the closest dining area. But others said this is a health issue and that we should have introduced this before, even before COVID hit. What do you think? So,
Tim, I'm not a smoker, and as a non-smoker, I am totally for banning smoking at Maltese restaurants, in and around Maltese restaurants as well. I think it's absolutely it's a disgusting habit to have, smoking, and I don't think it's fair for people around you who are non-smokers to kind of be inhaling these fumes, and secondhand smoking has been linked to developing cancer and stuff. And I think we need to denormalize smoking. I think it's become too normal as a society that people smoke. It obviously has huge health repercussions. It has zero benefits whatsoever to anyone. So I think the fact that they want to ban smoking in restaurants might help with the denormalization process, and we just don't need it.
It's not about normalization, I don't think. I think it's about promoting smoking. It's about allowing people to smoke outdoors, inside restaurants where the smoke does, move along with the wind. And I think there was quite a lot of justified anger the way this law was introduced by stealth. So it's got nothing to do with the virus per se. It was introduced as a restriction when restaurants were allowed to reopen. And there is a reality that people are smokers, and some people do want to go outside, to have a coffee and a cigarette at a cafeteria. Like you're saying, they shouldn't be allowed to do so. They should have a coffee and then move 10 meters away to have a smoke. I think it's a little bit extreme, and I think it's only fair that they allowed people to start smoking outdoors again.
Moving on to a lighthearted and perhaps the only good news we have today. 2 Maltese runners have completed a epic 35-hour run across Malta and Gozo. Now, Claudio Camilleri and Patrick Tabone set off at 3:45 a.m. on last Saturday, where they left Independence Gardens in Salema for this incredible 190-kilometer run, heading up north to Gozo, around Gozo, back to Meleha, across all of Malta and then ending up back at Independence Gardens 35 hours later at 3:15 p.m. on Sunday, so yesterday. I mean, it's an incredible feat when you think about it. Two Maltese runners running day and night in this sweltering Maltese summer heat. You know, they only stopped very briefly for some physio sessions or and whatnot, or to cross over to Gozo. But you know, they didn't rest. They stayed running for 35 hours, which I think is absolutely insane. It comes just weeks after Neil Juice swam from Sicily to Malta. It took him 28 hours. So you know, it just shows these incredible feats that humans are able to do. You know, I think absolutely incredible. Congratulations to both of them for completing it. They did it for a good cause as well, to raise money for a migrant charity. You know,
two NGOs, JRS and COPIN, to raise funds for and awareness as well for the education of young migrant children living in Malta, which you know might not be the most immediately popular cause, seeing as you know what the general attitude towards migrants tends to be, but you know, it makes it even more worthwhile because it is a worthy cause. These people do need education if we truly want them to integrate, and it's great to see people putting their names out and raising funds for this initiative, which, by the way, you mentioned Nila Juice swimming from Sicily to Malta. This, in terms of length, the journey by these two runners was identical in length, so they basically ran the distance between Malta and Sicily, just to underline how impressive this feat was. So that's all for today, right?
Absolutely.
Follow lovinmalta.com for more updates. I'm sure we'll have plenty more to talk about throughout the rest of the day. And until then, have a good day full of loving.